Hey, welcome back. Today we're finally going to finish up lesson 8.5. They had so much stuff in it. Here's another lesson that I have honestly never taught before. In fact, I am not the best at this myself. I had to teach myself how to do some of this. But I am going to show you guys how to do it just because I feel like we've been pretty good. The people who've been doing the assignments have been doing a good job. So I figured, hey, why not? Let's push the limits here and see how advanced we can get, because this is a super advanced topic. I highly doubt this would have been on the EOC test if we would have taken it this year, but you never know. So anyway, what we're going to do today is we're going to almost do the opposite of what we have been doing the past couple days. The past couple days we've been taking a function and we've been graphing it, or we've been describing the characteristics, right? We've been trying to find the axis of symmetry. We've been trying to find the vertex. We've been trying to plot the points and make the graph describe the domain and range. Today what we're going to do is we're going to get a description and we're going to have to come up with the equation or the function. And so it's basically just flipping the script on what we have been doing. And this is very, very advanced stuff. So we'll do the best we can, but if this is an assignment or a group of questions we don't necessarily do the best on, it's not the end of the world. Because like I said, I honestly have never really taught this before in Algebra 1. I don't even think I've ever, in 15 years, I don't think I can remember teaching this at all. So we'll do the best we can, and we'll see how we do. Maybe we'll be the first group that can actually understand this. So here we go. I actually started it. This is the second time I've had to talk about this. That's why my board's kind of messed up. I had to stop and go back and look something up myself because I was a little bit unsure on how to do it. But here's how it's going to look. The instructions are going to say, write a quadratic function in standard form. So over here in the purple area, I've got all the different forms we've used. They want our answer to be in standard form, which is like this, where there's no parentheses. Everything's been all multiplied out and simplified, whose graph satisfies these conditions. And so they're going to tell us, okay, here's the vertex. If they tell us the vertex, we're going to do this, option number 1. We're going to use the Vertex Form formula, or the function. If it gives us some points that the parabola goes through, like here, -8, 0, that's on the x-axis, right? That's an x-intercept. -1, 0, that's on the x-axis as well. That's an x-intercept. If they tell us some intercepts, or they give us some points that are on the x-axis, we're going to use this, option number 2. We're going to plug them into the Intercept Form formula, and then we're going to work it out. If for some reason they would give us 3 x-intercepts, we would use this, option number 3, because in that case, that means we have a cubic graph. We have one of those graphs that looks something like this, right? So it's going to have 3 x-intercepts, boom, 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 and we're going to use that last formula. And so these two are very, very similar. If you can see, the formulas are almost exactly the same. The only difference is this has a third parentheses with x minus r. Instead of p and q, it has r because it has a third x-intercept. So let's go ahead and try some of these. I think the best way is just to watch how I do them, because they're really not too bad once you get the hang of them. It's just a matter of getting practice. And like I said, I really don't have a lot of practice on these myself. So let's look at number 1. Write a quadratic function in standard form, up here, standard form, whose graph satisfies these conditions. So on number 1, we have a vertex of -2, 5. Since they describe vertex, I'm going to go up here and I'm going to pick this formula. I'm going to plug these numbers in, the -2, 5, for the spots that they are represented in the graph, right? So let's see. If I was going to work this out down below, I would put my function. The letter A, if they don't tell you anything about any other point, if all they do is they tell you the vertex, the letter A is 1. So I'm just going to put a 1 right there. They didn't say anything about any other points on this graph, so that means I'm going to assume that this is a regular graph that has an A value of 1. Okay, here I need to figure out what my x minus h, and I need to figure out what's going to go in the spot of the h and what's going to go in the spot of the k. So here's the formula. I just copied it down. The -2 and the 5 are going to be my h and my k. All right, but remember, this was always, the number in the parentheses was always the opposite of the way that it looked, right? See how this has a minus h? So if they give me a -2 up here, that means they went 2 to the left and 5 up, and that's where their vertex is. But remember, 2 to the left is not -2. 2 to the left was actually +2. So whatever symbol as far as positive or negative, they give you, when they give you the vertex, for the x coordinate, where the letter h is right here, if they say -2, we're going to have to put plus, because remember, it's always the opposite of the way that it looks. So +2 actually meant 2 to the left. If this would have been a +2 down here in my answer, I would have put -2, right? We're always going to have to flip the symbol on the h, on the x coordinate. The letter k is always going to be exactly the way that it looks. If that's a +5, this is going to be a +5, right? So you see, there in blue, those are the only two things I did. The 5 just came straight down from here and became the letter K in our formula. The H, I had to flip the sign. Instead of negative, I had to flip it to positive. And now I have it almost done, right? This is in intercept form. What I have right here, this is intercept form. But if you remember, the question way up there says they want our answer in standard form. So what does that mean? That means we're going to have to do FOIL. We're going to have to do the distributive property, right? We're going to have to do x plus 2 times x plus 2 since it's squared. And this is going to throw you back to before we had the coronavirus. We're going to have to actually do, I'm not going to put times 1 because, right, times 1 doesn't really do anything, does it? We're going to have to do the distributive property, right? X times x right here is x squared. X times 2 is 2x. I'm going to use a different color just to demonstrate the second part of the FOIL, right? The distributing 2 times x right there is 2x. And then here, 2 times 2 is 4. So there you go. This is me doing the x plus 2 squared. I just wrote it out, and then I did the distributing thing, the FOIL thing. I got this. I know I can combine those in the middle. I'll do that in a minute. I'm going to put this plus 5, just drop that down at the end. And then all I have to do is simplify this, right? Remember, squared is the highest degree. That goes first. So my final answer would be this. X squared would go first. And then I can combine these together, because those are both x's. 2x and 2x make 4x. And then I can also combine these together, because 4 plus 5 equals 9. And this would be my answer to number 1, right? And there you go. And that's kind of a weird way to do it. It combines some of the skills we used way back before the coronavirus stopped our school year. But that's how you'll do the questions when it gives you the vertex. Take the letter H, flip the symbol, put that in right there. Take this K amount, put that at the end, keep it the same, and then just distribute or do the FOIL, whatever's easiest for you, and then work it out. Okay, let's do number 2, because number 2 is going to be similar, but number 2, now they've given us a little bit of different information, right? On number 2, they've given me, hey, this thing goes through the point -8, 0, which like -8, 0 would be way out there. That'd be an x-intercept. They gave me -1, 0. That's also an x-intercept. And so that is a big clue that I want to use this. I want to go to option number 2, and I want to use the formula, the intercept form formula. Now, how do you do this? They gave me a third point, -3, 10, which would be like way up here. This would be a graph that opens down. I'm not going to worry so much about the -3, 10 right now. What I want to do is I want to use this intercept form because they gave me 2 intercepts. So let's use this formula over here. Let's see. I would have put f of x. I'm going to put my letter a. I don't know the letter a right now. X minus p, x minus q. Okay, so here's a big difference. On number 1, I just put a 1 in the spot of the letter a because it didn't give me any other points. It just gave me the vertex, and that was it. Here on number 2, they've given me 2 intercepts, but then they've also given me a third point. If they give you a third point or a point that is not the vertex or it is not one of the x-intercepts, that means you're going to have to figure out what the letter A is. And I'll show you how you're going to do that right now. Okay, first and foremost, though, they gave us the intercepts. They gave us one intercept is right here, -8. Do you remember how we have to do that? We have to flip the sign. Instead of -8, 8 to the left is really +8. Right? So we're going to flip the sign on your intercepts. Here, -1. No. That's 1 to the left. 1 to the left is actually +1 when you're dealing with these, right? So I flip both signs on the intercepts. That gets me started. And now I'm almost there. I just need to figure out what the letter A is. How do I figure out what the letter A is? Good question. I take my other point. They've given me an x coordinate and they've given me a y coordinate, right? I don't know if that's the vertex. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. It doesn't really matter. You take this and put it in the spot of the letter x in both places. You take the 10 and put that way over here. F parentheses x, remember way back when we first started learning this, I told you that's the same thing as the letter y. So you can replace that with the number 10. The x coordinate right here, we're going to replace both of these with negative 3. Right? So, real quick recap. I took the x-intercept, flipped the symbol, made it a +8. I took this other x-intercept, flipped the symbol, made it a +1. And then the third point they gave me, the point that was not on the actual x-axis, the regular point that doesn't have a 0 in it, I took this, plugged it in for the x's in our original formula, right? X there and X there. I took the y coordinate and put that in the spot of the F parentheses X, or sometimes it's the letter Y, sometimes it's a different letter besides F. And now what I want to do is work this out and figure out what the A is. And let's see, negative 3 plus 8, that's 5. Negative 3 plus 1, that's negative 2. So what I have is, let's see, I have 10 equals A times 5 times 2 is negative 10. So negative 10 times something equals 10. That's got to be negative 1, right? So negative 10 divided by positive 10 is negative 1. So my A is negative 1. Now I have everything I need for my final answer, right? I figured out what A is. So now I'm going to go back to the intercept form. Well, actually, you know what? Let me go back to our original problem. We had this. We did not know what the A is, but now I know it. It's negative 1. I'm going to put negative 1 right there. I'm going to keep my x. Remember that was x plus 8, and that was x plus 1. Okay, that's intercept form. What the question really wants, though, is it wants my answer in standard form. So if I'm being straight up with you, what we've really got to do here is we've got to distribute this and multiply everything out, and that's going to be kind of annoying. But we can do it. It doesn't really matter what order you multiply in. I'm going to do this part first. Well, yeah, let's just do this. I'm going to do x times x, that's x squared. I'm going to do x times 1, that's 1x. I'm going to do 8 times x, that's 8x. I'm going to do 8 times 1, that's 8. And then I'm going to have to take all of this times negative 1. So it's actually going to be, I'm way out of room here, negative 1x. I'm just going to put negative x. This is going to be negative 1x. This is going to be negative 8x. And that's going to be negative 8 at the end. And so my final answer, I'm going to clean this up a little bit. Oh, you can't even see it. I'm off the screen. Move my phone over a little bit. Your final answer is going to be way complicated. I'm going to have to do another one of these on a board where I have more room. Your final answer is going to be this. You're going to have negative x squared. And then you're going to combine these two together, right? Negative 8 and negative 1 make negative 9. X's, and then this minus 8 is at the end. And that is going to be your answer, and that's going to be super crazy hard. All right, let me do these on another board where we have more space. I got a couple more. I hope I have enough space to do this. Okay, number 3. A little more simple. They've given us x-intercepts. If they tell you x-intercepts, you're going to use the intercept form, which is, if I'm looking off my other board, I can see it. You can't see it because it's off screen right now. I'm going to use the intercept form, which is this. Okay. All they did is they gave me the x-intercepts. They didn't tell me any other points. So all I need to do is put these in the spot right here and right here. But before I plug it in, remember, I've got to flip the sign. So when I do this, I'm going to have to, the letter A, since they didn't give me any other points, the letter A is going to be 1. In here, it's going to be x. Instead of minus 4, we got to flip the sign. We got to make it plus 4. In the second parentheses, instead of 3, we're going to have to make it negative 3 or minus 3. And now we can just work this out. Now it's pretty straightforward. I want to do FOIL, or I want to do the distributive property. X times x, my blue marker dying on me. X times x, that's, switch to purple, I guess, equals x squared. X times negative 3, negative 3x. And then if I distribute this 4, right, 4 times x is positive 4x. 4 times negative 3 at the end is negative 12. And now I can put my final answer. Let's combine everything together, right? That can be combined. X squared goes first because it's the only thing that's squared. These two are combinable because they're both x to the first power. Negative 3x plus 4x, that's positive 1x. And then minus 12 at the end. That's it. Boom. This is standard form. Right here, this is actually very good for intercept form. If the question said to write it in intercept form, this would be perfect for intercept form. All right, that's the intercept form. This is standard form. I don't know why they necessarily pick standard form on this one, but we've got two different ways of representing the same equation. Okay, number 4, here's another simple one. They've given us the vertex. When they've given us the vertex, we're going to use the vertex form. I'm just going to copy it off my board. I can see it because it's off camera, but you can't see it. It's not like I have these memorized. I don't expect you to have them memorized. I'm looking off my board. I'm not actually a person who has this memorized. This is vertex form. I just copied it off my other board. Okay, they've given me the vertex. If that's all they've given me, then I'm going to put a 1 right there for the A. They didn't tell me anything else, so I'm just going to put a 1. They've given me this, which is the H. They've given me this, which is the K. It's also kind of the X and the Y, obviously, but in this formula, it's an H and a K instead of an X and a Y. For the letter H, it goes right there, but you've got to flip the symbol. Instead of positive 3, you've got to make it negative 3 or minus 3. The letter K is straightforward. It's not going to change. If that says 18, then R says 18. The only thing you flip is that first one. Okay. Now, we go back and we do our, like this would be perfect. If it said write the answer in vertex form, boom, I'd circle this, I'd be done. But since this question said write it in standard form, I've got to go and actually distribute this out, right? I've got to take x minus 3 times x minus 3, right? Since it's squared, I could do x minus 3 times x minus 3, and then I'm going to put plus 18 at the end. The times 1 at the beginning doesn't matter because anything times 1 is itself. And now I can just work this out, right? X times x, that's x squared. X times negative 3, that's minus 3x. And then I do this, negative 3 times x, negative 3x. Negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9. And then I'm almost done. I'm just going to keep this plus 18 at the end. And now I can just kind of combine like terms, and then I can be done. Final answer for this one. F of x equals, this has to be first because it's squared. These two are combinable because they're both x's. Negative 3 and negative 3 make negative 6. And then these two, plus 9 and plus 18, I can combine those. 9 plus 18, I think, is 27. So here it is in standard form. This is called standard form. Way up here, if they had asked me to write it in vertex form, this would be my answer if it said vertex form. Whoa. This is called vertex form right there. And so depending on what they asked for, I've got two different ways to write the same, write a formula for the same parabola. Okay, I've got a couple more. I feel like I'm doing a little bit better. Oh boy, here come the hard ones. These may be my last two. I actually have one more board after this. I don't know if I'm going to have time for it. It may be too long. Okay, here are the more difficult ones. I don't want to say more difficult. They just take more time. Now, they've given me on number 5, they've given me this, which is a point on the x-axis, right? Think about that. 0, 0 is right there. It's on the x-axis. They've given you the point 5, 0. If you think about where that is, that's right there. And then they've given me 3, negative 8. So they've given me 2 intercepts, and then they've given me a third point on the graph somewhere. It could be the vertex. I don't really know if it is for sure, but it might be. But what they've definitely given us is 2 intercepts. So I want to use the intercept form again. So I'm going to go back to my board. I'm going to copy it down. Here it is, intercept form. I don't have it memorized. You don't have to have it memorized either. Here's my intercept form. A, parentheses, x minus h squared. That is the wrong one. Let me erase that. Sorry about that. It's this one. A, parentheses, x minus p times x minus q. Okay, I finally wrote down the right formula this time. Here you have your p and your q, your 2 intercepts, the 0 and the 5. Your 2 zeros, right? Your 2 x-intercepts. When it's 0, you really can't do the opposite of 0, but I'm just going to put that in there for now. When this is 5, remember we have to flip the symbol. Instead of 5, when I plug it in right there, I have to make it minus 5 or negative 5. And then I don't know the letter A. The letter A is what we need to solve for, and this is what makes this one a little bit more annoying. It takes one extra step here. All right, let me clean up this x minus 0. You really don't need x minus 0, right? You can just put x right there, because anything minus 0 is just itself. So when it says x minus 0, you don't need to put the minus 0. You can just put the x. So we have a times x minus 5, and we know it has to equal this. But that's super confusing. I have all those letters in there. Now, how do I work it out? How do I figure out what this letter a is? I know the letter a has to be positive, because if I just look at my graph over here, it's opening up. So I know letter a should be positive. I just don't know what number it is. How do you figure it out? You take this third point right here that they gave us. Let me actually, I dropped my red marker. Okay, we take this third point that they gave us, the point that is not on the x-axis, so the point way down here, -3 or 3, -8. We're going to plug this in for x and y. So all these x's, I'm going to replace it with a 3 right here, 3 right here. The letter y is actually this over here. It looks really funky. I know it's not actually a y, but it's the same thing as a y. Boom. So now I can work this out. And I hope, I just made these questions up. I hope this actually works out. 3 times 3 minus 5 is -2. That's -6 times something equals -8. Oh, geez. -6 times what equals -8? Calculator time. This is going to be a decimal. So it would be -8 divided by -6. Here's my calculator. -8 divided by -6. It is 1.3 repeating bar. Obviously, a lot of us know what that is. That's 1 1/3. So my letter A is 1 1/3. Or I could put 4/3, right? So now, I'm almost done. I'm ready to write my official answer. If the question said write it in intercept form, here's what I would have. The letter A right here, I know what this is now. It's right here. I just found it. I'm going to put 4/3 instead of 1 1/3. I know that I had just a minute ago x minus 0, which I'm just going to put the x there, and then I had x minus 5, right? Those were the numbers that I had right here and right here, the 0 and the 5. And now I would normally be done if it said intercept form. This is intercept form. This is intercept form. Intercept form. But if they want standard form, you actually have to multiply all this out, right? Boom. And then let's actually do that. 4/3 times x is 4/3 x. And then 4/3 x times x minus 5. Oh boy, this is a distributing question, right? This times this. 4/3 x times x would be 4/3 x squared. And then 4/3 times -5. Oh geez. That's going to be -20/3. Which obviously that's what, 6 2/3. But I'm going to keep it like that. So my final answer is going to be f of x equals 4/3 x squared minus 20/3. And that's a crazy answer. We haven't really had a lot of answers like that, but that's how you would do that one. Okay, let me do one more like that because I don't know about you, but that is the most confusing one. Even I get confused on these sometimes. Like I said, I never really practiced this. I never really have taught this, to be honest. I had to learn it myself in the chapter, just like you guys are having to learn it right now. Okay, let's do one more of these, and then I think I'll probably call it good for there. We won't do the last board that I have. Okay, so here on number 6, they've given me a point, -2, 0. Think about what that is, right? -2, 0 is boom, right there. That's an x-intercept. They've given us 6, 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Boom, that's another x-intercept. So I know right now I want to use intercept form. That's this formula up here. I still have it in purple. Let me go ahead and copy it down just to keep myself organized. A, x minus p, x minus q. They've also given me this third point. This third point is not on the x-axis, is it? 118 is way up here somewhere. So I know just by kind of freehanding this that my graph is going to open down. That is a big clue that my letter A has got to be negative. So I know right now this, and my final answer has got to be negative. Remember, when it opens down, the letter A is negative. When it opens up, the parabola opens up, the letter A is positive. I just don't know what negative number it is. Now, how do you figure out what negative number it is? Okay, here's where we get to plug stuff in. Your intercepts. You've got to intercept at -2. That goes in the first parentheses. Actually, it could go in either parentheses, doesn't matter. Because this is -2, 2 to the left, remember, these intercepts are always the opposite of the way that they look. We switch it to +2. You only do this on the intercepts. Right here, where it says 6, we're actually going to have to make that -6, because -6 means 6 to the right, +2 means 2 to the left. The only thing I don't know the letter A. That's what I got to figure out. And I don't know over here. I'm just going to copy this down. Okay, step 1. Plug in the intercepts. Switch the sign. -2 becomes +2. +6 becomes a -6. Step 1, done. Plug in the intercepts. Step 2, now take these two coordinates, take the point that is not the intercept, right? This point is not on the x-axis. We're going to take the x and the y, and we're going to plug it in for the x and the f of x, right? 1 is going to go in the spot of the x, so I'm going to put it right here. Anywhere I see an x, I'm going to put a 1. The 18 is going to go in the spot of the f of x. F of x is the same thing as a y. We need to figure out what the letter A is. The letter A looks kind of ugly. That looks like a 9. Let me actually make it a different color so it stands out. So A equals something and 18, right? So now let's just work this out. And I think I'm going to end up with another crazy decimal because I just made this problem up off the top of my head. I didn't like think about it or work it out beforehand. 1 minus 6 is -5. 3 times -5 is -15. Oh, geez. So we have -15 times A. I'm off my board. Let me screw it up. -15 times A equals 18. Holy cow. If I had to solve this, I would do divide by -15 on both sides. I apologize, guys. This is going to be a horrible decimal. 18 divided by -15. Oh, it's not as horrible as I thought. -1.2. That's 1 1/5, right? -1.2. So I figured out what A is. A is -1.2. So I'm ready to make my final answer. This is where you have to take all the stuff that we did and actually put it all back together in this original formula, right? So here's my original formula from right here. I'm going to replace the things that I just figured out. Okay, the letter A comes first. I just figured that out. It's right here. A is -1.2. You could also put -6/5 if you wanted, or -1 1/5. In the first parentheses, we're going to do x, just like we had right here, we're going to do x plus 2, right? This says -2, we had to switch it to a plus. In the other parentheses, we're going to have just what we had right here. This says +6, we're going to have to make it -6. Now, if the question said, write your answer in intercept form, I would be done. I would say, boom, done, perfect. If the question says, write it in intercept form, I'm going to celebrate, I got it, boom, perfect answer. But our book wants it in standard form, which is going to be annoying. Standard form. We're going to have to actually work all this out. Holy cow. All right. You can multiply this in any order you want. You could actually distribute right here if you wanted to first, and then do the FOIL with that and that. Let me actually do the FOIL first. Let me just do the two parentheses. X times x is x squared. X times -6 is -6x. And then right here, +2 times x is 2x. +2 right here times -6 is -12. And so if I actually simplify this a little bit, that would be x squared. And then these two right here, remember your O and your I, your 2 in the middle, are always combinable. -6x plus 2x. -6 plus 2 is -4. And then -12. I would love to say I'm done right here, but wait a second. Remember this silly thing, this -1.2? Now what I really need to do is take -1.2 and multiply -1.2 using the distributive property, right? -1.2 times x, -1.2 times 4, which is 4.8. And then I'd have to do -1.2 times -12. Okay, we know this in our head, right? You all know this. You know 12 times 12 in your head is 144. So -1.2 times -12, it's not going to be 144. It's going to be 14.4. And so this would be my answer in quote-unquote standard form, where it's all multiplied out. It's actually the same thing as this. It's just written in a different way, in a different format. Okay, guys, I'm at 30 minutes. I'm going to stop right there. I feel like that is good enough. If you really, well, you know what? No, I'm sorry. I'm actually going to do this last one. I think it's easy enough. What about if they gave you a problem that had 3 x-intercepts? Right? Whoa, I'm way off my board. If you get 3 x-intercepts, that means that this thing touches the x-axis in 3 places. Like, just think about this one. This one would touch the x-axis at -3. It's going to touch the x-axis at +2 and +5. This is going to be one of these things, right? Maybe it goes like that. I don't know, I just guessed. It could go down like this. I really don't know. But what you do know is, you know you've got a third format called cubic form, which is the same as what we just did, right? Remember, you just do the opposite. Instead of -3, you do +3. Instead of +2, you do -2. Instead of +5, you do -5. And then they would actually want you to work this whole thing out. This would be the answer in intercept form. They would actually want you to work it out, like do the FOIL right here, the FOIL right here, the distributive property, whatever you want to call it, 3 times x, 3 times -2. And then you'd have to, I'm going to go ahead and simplify this. That would be x squared. These two are combinable, right? -2x plus 3, that's 1x. And then you would have to take that, and remember I still have this x minus 5 that I haven't even done anything with. And then you would have to, like, this is going to be a crazy one, because look, you'd have to do this times this. X squared times x is x to the third. X squared times -5. This is like a crazy distributing problem, right? You have to distribute it 3 times. Then we have to distribute the 1x times x, the 1x times -5, and then we have to distribute the -6, or the -6 here at the end, -6 times x, and then -6 times the -5. Whenever you get one that has 3 x-intercepts, your answer has to be something to the third power, right? X cubed. That has to be in there. It has to have the third power. If you have 3 x-intercepts, it has to be cubed. Okay, we have these two that are both squared. -5 and +1, that's -4. We have these two right here that are both x to the first, -5 and -6, -11. And then you have the one that's just the regular x, or the regular number, that's to the 0 power. Boom. Look at that craziness, right? This is the really cool answer. I wish they said stop right there, write it in intercept form. But they aren't always nice. Sometimes they say write it in standard form, and that's when we had to go through all that distributing and all that FOIL silliness. Okay, I'm not going to do number 8. That's going to take too long. You all don't need to watch the video. That would be that long. To be honest, it's just like what we did on the others, except you would have had to find the letter A, and that would have been a nightmare to do. So I'm going to stop right there. I'm going to put some questions on Big Ideas Math. Feel free to do them over the weekend if you'd like, and then Monday we will finish up Chapter 8, and we will look to wrap it up with this chapter. All right, thank you so much for watching. Sorry this video took so long, guys. I will catch you in the next one.